today's session is about member attendance. Is that right, Giles?
Yep.
Brilliant. Well, we've got, as usual, we've got some kind of slides to show, some things to talk about, and Giles has got a bit of a live demonstration as well. So if you're watching and you've got any questions, please just pop them down. You can comment on Facebook or YouTube. If you're watching after the event, because you can watch this back after it's gone live, if you do have any questions for Giles, please put them in the comments or contact us. I will be giving you an email address that you can contact Giles on later. So yeah, if you've got any questions, put them in the comments. And in fact, oh, here we go. We've got somebody saying hello already, actually.
Yeah.
Shed on the Aisle. Hello.
Hello.
Nice to have you with us and welcome. So yes, anybody questions, please add them. And if you're watching after the fact, you should be able to contact Giles. So I'll jump right in, Giles. I'll add the slides up so you can get started.
Yeah,
so
let's go. So the first slide's a bit of an intro about me. Been around IT for many years, right from the days when you used to have to literally bootstrap machines by bashing numbers into them before they'd even read a paper tape, right up to ending my career at Sky TV, where I was working on HD television amongst other things. Now I'm retired and spend a lot of time doing the IT for Debenham Shed, and I have a pretty sophisticated smart home as well, which a number of the things we're going to be talking about today are actually borrowed from that part of those bits of technology.
Yeah.
Next slide, please.
Okay.
So the idea of these sessions is really to prepare for Shedfest. Rachel asked me to have a session at Shedfest, and I put about 2 hours of slides together, which horrified her a little bit. So she asked if we could do some intro sessions, and then so when we got to Shedfest, we could really concentrate more on, what do we do about sharing technology ideas between various sheds. And so this is the third of those 4 preambles to Shedfest. So at Shedfest, I think Rachel said sometime in the middle of the day, I will be having a session where we'll take the questions and comments that have come up from these sessions and decide on a plan for where we want to go from here.
Yeah, and also if you are interested in any of this but you can't attend Shedfest, which just to flag is on Thursday the 11th of July, tickets will be available very soon in the next week or so, or a few days, I would think. If you can't attend Shedfest but you are interested in finding out more about IT, if you've enjoyed these sessions, I think we've said as well, if people are interested in kind of staying connected or kind of learning more or sharing information about stuff, please drop either Giles or myself an email. If you can't come to Shedfest, that doesn't mean that you can't take part or kind of be involved. So please do give us a shout.
If somebody wants me to set up a Zoom session where we can show you, I tend not to do Zooms from inside our shed because we've only got a 4G network connection at the shed, which we'd very quickly eat our data allowance up if I ran them from there. So I normally do them from home. I could set that up if somebody wanted to see what we do in a bit more detail.
Yeah, and I think, and obviously if anyone's local to Debenham Shed, which is in Suffolk, I'm sure Giles would welcome.
Yeah, please come over. Yeah, it's
what flagged my interest in this was when I actually visited your shed and saw all the bits and pieces that you had working in action, and kind of brought it to life quite a lot. Okay, so we'll start now.
We used to have a system based on spreadsheets for people to log in, and I think probably in common with a lot of other sheds, most of our members would love to do this to every computer in the world. So we had to come up with a system that was really easy to use and not computer-like. So if we take the next slide, please. So what we do is everybody is issued with a tag, either a self-adhesive one or a keyring style. The self-adhesive one's most popular because what people do is they stick it to their badge. Of course, when they pick their badge up, they always have their badge in the shed. All they have to do is press the tag against the little reader, which is inside a Patras, ordinary white Patras, and you see the green light comes on, and that logs them in. If you're eagle-eyed, you'll notice that I'm not actually using one of the tags there. I found out that my burglar alarm arming tag uses the same
Oh, does
technology.
it?
So I use my burglar alarm arming tag to
What
log
did it log you in as though? Did it give you
yeah,
a
well,
name?
they all just have a serial number, so I was able to
Mm.
find the serial number, and
Ah,
probably means I could hack my burglar alarm if I needed to.
that's handy to know.
Okay, anyway, next
So
slide, please.
yeah, so literally people come to the shed, they tap that, and then
Yeah,
it says you're here.
that's right. And then when they go home, they tap out.
Tap it
If
out.
they forget to tap out, what happens is at the end of the day, after the last person's logged out, it logs any remaining ones out, so that
Okay.
we get a nice clean start the next day.
Okay.
It does mean to say that when we come to look at hours, it's not 100% accurate if people don't log out.
Yeah, of course. Okay. So
So
this.
what we do is we have a tablet mounted on the wall, and that has these screens on it, which show who's logged in on the day. We see photos of who's logged in, when they arrived, when they left. We also see what sort of skills they have, so that if you're after a first aider or you're after somebody to help you with some woodwork, you can look on the screen, you can see the photograph of who can do it, and then you can just go and find them and have a chat and get some help. If you forget your tag, which of course inevitably happens, there's a part of the screen shows you who's not signed in today, and you can just simply hit the toggle button and it will toggle you out. So if you're not, if you just forget your tag, you're there or thereabouts.
You're not locked out.
No, not at all. No. So we get a good idea. I mean, on this day there were, I think, 18 people signed in.
And it says on here, I'm just looking at some of the skills. So it says like safeguarding officer, it says woodworking, first aider, key holder. So that's really handy to know, isn't it, at a glance, especially, I guess, if you're a newer member to the shed and you don't necessarily know everybody. Or
yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not very good at people's names, but I can recognize faces. So that's the way I work normally.
Yeah, brilliant. And I suppose some of this as well. So as you say, it shows who's not in the shed, but also we've got those photos pre-programmed so you can kind of see who's who.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
You see who the committee is and things like that. The committee members are identified on that.
Okay.
Okay, next slide, I think, please. So once we've got all that data, obviously we can produce reports from it. So this is the attendance report, and what it shows you of everybody who's been to the shed in the past month. The names are down obfuscated in the left-hand side column, and then for each of the days that we were open, you get an X if you were at the shed, and then we add them up, and we can then say, well, you know, on a Friday we get so many people a day attending, on a Monday we get less people, you know, somebody's not been here very often, or some people attend more often. So we get a good idea of the stats of what's going on. About once a year I run a more complicated one which calculates the total number of members, total number of hours that members have spent in the shed. And that's really handy for funding applications. You know, you can actually say, you know, this is a really, really important thing. In 2023, we had over 4,000 hours of people in the shed, which is, you know, a bigger number than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, of course. And that's useful as well for, obviously, as you said, things like funding, so you can show how many hours you've got people there. Good as well for checking, I guess, if members aren't turning up or if you're worried about
somebody. If you see an X in the sort of beginning of the month and then nothing across the bar, it does tend to make you wonder whether, you know, there's something wrong with them or we're doing something wrong. And so then normally the safeguarding officers will contact somebody who hasn't been for a while and check everything's okay.
Yeah, and that's useful. One of the things that when we did our health and wellbeing survey last year, that was one of the things kind of sheds were flagging, is that they sometimes would have somebody who would maybe manually be checking that, or, you know, from their visitor book or their spreadsheet or whatever, monitoring who's not there. So that's a good way of doing it. I've just got a comment, Giles. I'll flash it up. Well, first of all, I've just got hello from Mark Nolan, Bingley and Rural Men's Shed. Hi, thank you for joining. Mark. And hello, Mark. And then the question is from Shed on the Isle, and this is, what are you going to say about visitors? How would you log a visitor to the shed?
Yeah, we normally manually log visitors, and we have a little diary when we do it on paper, because basically, you know, we don't really need to track how often they come and things like that. So yeah, they're just on a piece of paper normally.
Yeah. Does
Good
that
old
make it
fashioned
easier?
pen and paper, even though I'm
No,
a techie. There's
it's not all
nothing wrong with
smart.
a pencil and a diary.
No. And I suppose as well, if you've got them, all the visitors kind of in one place, I guess at a glance, you can see if,
Yeah,
you know, if you've
yeah, they're
had,
usually
I don't know,
wandering
health
around.
professionals or whatever, you can have a
Indeed.
bit of a
And
snoop.
actually, quite often people who come in, even, they're just there's visitors who are coming because they come from another shed and they were looking at what it does. That's one category.
Mm,
But quite often we'll have somebody come in and spend a day with us just to sort of see whether they want to join or not. And bearing in
yeah.
mind the fobs only cost us 25p, we
Mhm.
quite often just give them a fob anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And where'd you buy the fobs from?
You can get them from eBay, from AliExpress or Amazon, and we buy them. You can buy them in batches of 50 if you want. They
Oh,
come in.
okay.
You get them in a big lump,
Yeah,
basically.
so not very
And
expensive.
the sticky. I'll show you them in a minute when we do
Yeah,
the live demo. But yeah, the sticky ones they're all about the same price.
yeah. So basically, what happens is somebody comes to the shed, they swipe in, it ticks them off on this list, it ticks them off on the iPad, and then they're logged on this attendance report. And then
Correct.
following question from Shed on the Isle, good question.
Yeah.
What about a roll call for fire drills,
Yeah,
or
we
if
can
you
do
had
that
an
because we've got
emergency?
it. It's there. We know who's there. So yeah, it's perfect for that. We haven't virtually had a fire drill, but we just take the plan is to take the tablet off the wall
Yeah.
outside. Tick tick tick. See who should be there.
So you'd literally take the iPad off the wall, and then you've
Yeah,
got everyone who is attending. So it's
yeah,
basically like a register of who's
yeah.
there.
And if we can't
Uh,
get to the iPad, obviously you can get to this. I would have done a live demo of this, but of course, because of GDPR, I'm not
yeah,
really allowed to show you people's names. But yeah, any committee member can access this data at any time, anywhere in the world, because it's just another web page.
okay. And then Emma, a similar question. What if there was a fire? Is the register easy to
Yeah.
access and check? Some of our
Yeah,
sheds in our area quite large and have people in different rooms. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah. We
yeah.
only track against the coming in the front door, because
Mhm.
that's all that we need to do. But you could have multiple readers and track when people go from one place to another, if that was what you wanted to do.
Yeah. And your shed is
Actually wouldn't be too
quite large,
difficult.
isn't it? It's two kind of big was it two or three big massive
We've got
containers
4
together? 4?
shipping containers welded together
Yeah.
with the walls taken out between them. So
Yeah. So it is
it's
kind
a
of one big
reasonable size,
space.
but
Yeah.
I can understand if you wanted to know where if you've got, say, 2 locations, you
Hmm.
might have a reader in each location and add another column to say where people are.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think when I show you how the thing works, it'll make it
Bring it to
probably a
life.
bit clearer about how to do that.
Yeah, but I think it is a good question to think about, safety and stuff. But yeah, it is literally an iPad that velcros or whatever to the wall, and you
Yep.
can the key
Or you
holder,
just use your phone. I mean,
you can access it on your
you can
phone.
just get my phone. I could tell you exactly who's
Okay,
in right now from here. You
brilliant.
don't
Yeah.
really need to nick the iPad.
Okay, super. Any more on the attendance report slide, Giles, or do you want me to go to the
No,
next one?
that's it. Next slide, please. So
Okay.
how does it work? So it's based on 2 components. The WeMOS D1 is a development board that holds an ESP8266 processor. This little processor is probably the whole reason why smart home and the Internet of Things is grown so much. The processor itself, you can get these for about £4 or £5. And what's in there is there's a processor and there's a Wi-Fi unit. And what it does is, and it has a website, a web page.
And that's
So
the blue one that you're
the
talking
blue
about.
one, yeah, and then there's a reader which costs about £8, which has a little aerial, and what it does is it, when it detects a fob, it sends the registration of that fob to the blue box, and then the blue box sends that off to wherever else you're going. And to make all that work, there's a middleware that you load onto the blue box called Tasmota. Tasmota is a wonderful piece of software. It's very, very clever. And what that does is it does all the work for you, creating the website. And literally the only piece of code I needed on the device was what's at the bottom there, which basically says send to debenhamshed.org the value of the tag that you read. Really is as simple as that. But rather than me trying to describe it, why don't we take a look at it? So
Yeah.
Rachel, if we could swap screens,
Okay.
please.
Yeah. Bear with me.
Okay, good. So I hope everybody can see that. This is my screen here. On this side, you can see the cursor is a camera looking at a Wemos D1 and the RFID reader, just the two components. They're connected together with 3 wires. There's a data wire, power, and earth. And it's really as simple as that. And on the web page, you can see the web page that's actually coming out of this little device here. So you've got the device itself, which is that one, and you've got a reader, which is this one. It's got this layer.
And what's that yellow square it's plugged into?
Oh, that's just a breadboard that just holds everything in place. It just stops them all wandering all over my desk.
Okay, so that's not important. The yellow.
It's not important. No, it's just a thing that just you can plug things in to stop them moving about. So you power it up off of an ordinary USB wall wart. It just takes 5 volts, so you can get power supplies. You know, we've all got loads of spare USB chargers knocking about. And once you've powered it up, you can connect to it. And what happens is so here's the sticky type connector, tag rather. When I present that to the tag, you see the little light comes on. And what you should, if I do a different one, like that, you should see that the number changes here.
Will you do that again, just so we can see?
Do it again.
Another one.
And the number changes again. So every time you present a tag, it knows that it's happened. And if we look at the
that number would be
for that device, you'll see that what it did is it got that is the reader, that's the tag number, and it turned the LED on and then turned it off again.
So those numbers are basically equivalent.
Every one of those tags has got a unique serial number. So once we've got the unique serial number, we send that off to the database. The database then matches that to a person. The person can have multiple keys. I've got 2. And it just says, right, you're in, you're out, depending on what your previous status was. It's as simple as that. But the device itself, we're talking about maybe £8 worth of kit here.
Wow,
ridiculously cheap. And then you connect. This is connected via Wi-Fi to our Wi-Fi network, and off you go. And you could clearly have many of these, and you could give them different names, so that when it sent the tag number, it could say not only just a tag number, it could say I got this from reader A, B, or C. So you could actually, if you had a site with multiple buildings or multiple rooms, you could quite easily have multiple ones of these, and then simply it would know where you came from.
Brilliant.
A bit more sophistication on the back end, but that's really about it.
Yeah. And we've just got another comment from Shed in the Aisle. I don't know if you've heard of this app, Giles, Vistus. We're about to try that app.
Yeah. So if you forget your fob, then you can always tap in on the screen when you walk in. And go back to my very first slide. People just don't like computers, even though they know their name. They do not like computers, and this is definitely non-computer. It's just a white box on the wall. They pick their badge up, hold their badge against the wall, done. No faffing about. And it has been very popular, I have to say. We very rarely see anybody in the shed that hasn't tagged in.
Yeah. And this
that's
is just
the measure of it, really. If people weren't using it, which was true certainly of our old system, which required you to get onto a laptop and mess around with spreadsheets and stuff. It was just ridiculous.
And this one, Vistus, is that on? I don't know much about it. Would that be on somebody's phone? Would it be
a commercial thing? I would imagine, but
yeah, not sure. If Shed on the Aisle, if you have got any couple of sentences about it, is it on your phone or is it typing it into something on the wall? Let us know. But all this, Giles, obviously the little kind of chips and stuff, is that, obviously it's cheap to buy and you kind of buy these little pieces. Is it easy to set up? Because say, for example, somebody that's maybe not used this stuff before, this green screen can look a little bit daunting.
It's a bit daunting. I agree with that.
Is it hard?
The brilliant thing about this software is it's open source, and therefore there are literally dozens of videos on the internet that show you how to set it up. Certainly, I've certainly never read a manual about it. The moment something goes wrong,
doesn't surprise me.
Off to Google and you'll find your way. But one of the things one of the big questions that comes out on the end of this is, would it be appropriate for us to set up a shed technical group where I take people through precisely how to set this up, perhaps for different environments and what have you. We share what code I do have. But yeah, it's certainly a question that we can do. Take on later. They are actually surprisingly reliable. These things. The only thing that confuses them is if you put your turn the power on and off. I think it's 7 times in rapid succession. It goes back to its factory defaults. That's about the only thing that sort of phases them. Apart from that, they do seem to be very, very, very reliable.
Okay, that's good. So basically, all the kind of kit you would physically need would be, these kind of 2 little chip things and Wi-Fi and some kind of computer to access.
Yeah. Well, what we do with this is it goes up to our web server. Our website, and then all the work is really done up there. Then once it's the web pages are built, and you can access them from anywhere.
And that's the next session, isn't it, Giles? Creating
web presence is the next one.
So that will be, there will be a bit more info in the next session about that.
Before we go on, has anybody got any questions about this?
We've just got another comment. So Shed on the Isle just giving a bit more info. So it's on a tablet with an online dashboard and a free basic version for not-for-profits. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. We'll look it up, and maybe that's something we can, if it looks good, or let us know about your experience with it, because you said you were trialing it. So if it's decent and easy to use, it could be a solution. Brilliant. And then it's onto the next slide, is it, Giles?
Yes, please. Sorry, back to the slides. Yeah. And the next slide, please. Okay, so these little boxes are really, really useful because they're not just for doing RFID readers. You can add a whole load of things. Our shed is in an isolated location, which means that, of course, having a bell box is pretty useless because nobody will hear it. And so what we do is we have these little devices, but connected to motion sensors. And then obviously the same route is taken when there's motion. It posts that up to a website, and we can know what's going on. It has its there's a UPS, or there will be. We haven't quite got that installed yet, so it'll keep going when there's no power.
What's a UPS?
Uninterruptible power supply, basically batteries.
Okay.
Yeah, so that keeps it going. And one of the whole things about smart home, which I think most people don't understand, is it only really works if things talk to each other. And so the fobs drive the alarm system. So when the first person fobs in, that turns the alarm off, which seems to make sense. Similarly, the CCTV, which I'm still working on, again, same idea. The moment a valid fob comes in, then that stops sending me emails of all the CCTV images. So once you start with this system, it's very easy to use it to drive other things as you go on. And I'm sure people will come up with other ideas for how, because there's loads of different detectors. You could have water detectors and all sorts of things connected to this type of device, and then use that to drive other systems.
Sorry, I was just going to say, these detectors, like the motion detectors, the water detectors, whatever, are these things that you've got yourselves, or is this something through your, you talk about kind of burglar alarm system? Have you set this intruder alarm system up totally yourself?
I mean, all it is basically the same thing that we've just seen, but with a motion sensor instead of it, and then obviously a bit of software up in the cloud that does the work. So
you wouldn't necessarily have to pay to get some kind of burglar alarm fitted. You could literally do this yourself.
No. Well, a proper burglar alarm's pretty pointless for us because nobody's going to hear it.
So this way, if there was an intruder in the shed, for example, they would flag, the motion detector would flag. It would. What would happen next?
What happens is it sends emails to the key holders.
Yeah.
So we get a notification that way, and then in parallel to the email notification of the motion sensors, the CCTV starts sending you photos, and the videos get stored online that you can then look at later on. It takes a bit longer for the videos to come through, but the photos are pretty much instantaneous.
So you could ring the police, and then you would have hopefully footage of whatever's
the
happening.
police in Suffolk are quite strong about false alarms. So if you get two false alarms in 6 months, they won't come and see you for a year.
Right,
So
gosh.
you do have to be very careful in this county with false alarms. So by pushing it through the key holders, we effectively act as a filter against false alarms.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then smoke detection as well, is that a similar?
Same thing, yeah, same thing. You can just get ordinary standard smoke detectors, and what they do is, if you get the interconnecting ones where one fires the other one off, you can just sample what's going on the cable between them and use that as a signal, so that you're then through Wi-Fi to do exactly the same as everything else. You can really extend this quite significantly. Float water detectors, they're about a couple of £3. All these detectors are peanuts.
And same kind of places that you'd buy them from, kind of
the usual things, Amazon, Alibaba, eBay.
Yeah, wow.
I don't think Tesco sell them.
Had another comment from Shed on the Isle. So they've said, one of the reasons for us wanting this was we've come across the first funding application that allows us to use volunteer time as part of our matched funding, but they want timesheets, volunteer time given. So that's an interesting
thing. We know that data anyway. We've got that from the reports that we produce.
Yeah, so that's something like that spreadsheet, as you say, that people sign in and out. They would see exactly who's been there, and I guess you can just run. You're not manually collating that; you're just running some kind of report.
At the moment, in order to give it a nice, easy thing to see, and are you in or not in? It's just an X.
Yeah.
But I have worked on one where it just gives you the number of hours that they were in, which we can calculate easily because we know the login time and the log out time. It does get a bit complicated when people log in and out several times in a day. Go through each one and work it out. The code's a bit complicated, but no, that's kind of like comes with the territory when you have a system like this,
I suppose. But yeah, it's a good point, isn't it? I think you flagged it before. It does kind of help with funding to say, this is I guess the service the Shed's providing for people. They're there this many hours in the year, getting this much time out of it, or this many hours, supporting the community by being at the Shed.
Right. And our argument has always been that
Shed on the Isle said we're busy at the moment making it up.
Our argument is always that any hour that someone's in the Shed is a volunteer hour.
It is, yeah.
And the example we give is that there was a guy that used to come in and tie fishing flies. Now, so he would come in and he'd spend a few minutes tying a fishing fly. While he's doing that, of course, I guess he's kind of like a customer rather than a volunteer. But within 5 minutes, he's got a whole load of people around him asking him how to tie fishing flies. So then he becomes a volunteer. So I think using that argument is quite strong in terms of saying if you're in the Shed, you're volunteering. Because you're either going to be doing that or you're going to be making stuff for the community. It's very difficult to argue that anybody in the Shed is not volunteering.
And even I guess in terms of, it depends who your funding application is for. It depends what they're looking for. So you could say every hour in the Shed is somebody that's not sat at home by themselves, or it's if you're thinking about things like well-being, loneliness, whatever it might be, you can kind of come at it from that angle as well. So it's it really does show.
We're pretty confident.
On the Isle have said, "Don't tell." We'll have to delete this. We'll have to delete this recording. Well, it sounds like you've got it sorted with that app anyway. That visitors.
If we've got no more comments on that.
Yep.
I think that's just a picture of some of the other devices.
Okay.
So, that shows the We Must D1. That's the next one along at £3.50 is the photocell PIR motion sensor. The next one along is a light sensor. We use that to detect, because we have no windows. Containers don't have windows in them. When it's dark, we know that there shouldn't be anybody in the Shed. So that also helps drive the burglar alarm. When it gets light, there's somebody in the Shed. If they've not bobbed in within 5 minutes, we know they're a burglar. Another thing, that there's a special build of Tasmotor that acts as an electricity meter. So I think pretty much all electricity meters have a little light that flashes on them every time there's a certain amount of power consumed. So what you do is you put one of those photocells, like the £4 thing above it, you mount that on your electricity meter with the sensor just above the flashing light, And then it's pretty easy to build a dial like this that displays you the instantaneous electricity consumption.
Okay.
So again, that's quite useful, because we it's a good way of telling where everything's turned off at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The reason that I got involved in doing this was because we used to commute down to London, and we did get 50 miles from home one day when my wife said, "I think I've left the iron on."
Oh God. Oh God. That's
So we drove all the way home again. So now what happens here is that as we arm the alarm, it speaks how much electricity we're using, and so that we can then say, well, if it's over a kilowatt, then probably the iron's still on.
Oh God. Do you know what? I've got a similar, very quick story about that. My sister used to live in Leeds, and she was getting the train home one weekend. So she left a shared student house, went all the way to the train station from Headingley, got on the train, sat on the train, and thought, I think I've left my hair straighteners on. Had to get off the train at the next stop, catch a train back to Leeds, get a taxi back to our house to check if the hair straighteners were on, and they were not on.
Oh yeah, it's always the case.
Yeah.
If you want to just flip over to the shared screen again, I'll show you. This is the electricity consumption dial going now.
And the shed on the aisle, bet the iron was off.
It was. Yeah, you're right. If you flip over to the shared screen, that's great.
Oh, shared screen, sorry.
Yeah, please, sorry. So that's the current consumption in this house as we're going along. If I turn my head, my finger on.
Okay.
And then it will drop back down again.
Is that hairdryer just a prop, or do you normally dry your hair in there?
No, it's actually, I use it for shrink wrapping cables.
Okay, that's clever.
Okay, that's enough of that, I think. Yep. But you can see once you get into these things, the possibilities are pretty endless. And
I guess once you've got one thing, it's quite easy to add another thing.
And it's great to get things joined together. You know, like I was saying, when we arm the alarm, it tells us how much electricity we're using. You know, that whole smart home thing, if you do join things up together, it's, you know, the sum of the parts thing. You know, it's much better and a lot easier to live with.
Yeah.
Anyway. Next slide, please.
We've had someone else join us as well. David Morris. Hi.
Hello, Dave.
Hi, David Morris. Wherever you're from. If you're from a shed, tell us which shed. So next slide. What next?
Obviously, it would be impossible for me to be able to build implementations of this for everybody, all the different sheds around. But what I am happy to do is it's all open source, so there's no problem with any licensing or anything like that. I could upload it into GitHub, which is a repository for shared software. And it's not badly documented, but it probably could do with some more documentation. But if there was a sufficient interest that we can gather at Shedfest, perhaps a group of us could get together and actually, you know, try and productize this a little bit and make it a bit more generic for sheds use and allow individual sheds to do their own versions or, you know, somehow make a sort of more common version. As you can see, I'm pretty keen on this little processor. It's such a useful little device, and maybe if sufficient interest, I'd run a webinar just on that device and what you can use it for, how to set it up, how to program it, all those sorts of things. Again, I could do that really easily. We could do specific ones on alarms or power supplies or monitoring power or security or whatever. So those of you that are coming to Shedfest, if you could think of what you'd like to do with this stuff, then we can set up how we support that forward from the community of techies who work in sheds. Yeah,
shed techies, and I think that's a good offer, Giles, of kind of showing, kind of going through the setup, because I think that's the kind of thing that can seem a bit daunting. I think once you see it all working, it seems quite straightforward how to manage it, but how to set it up is something that, especially, as I say, kind of looking at microchips or what processors, whatever they are, the green and black screen looks a bit but I think if there's someone there to kind of help talk through it, that could be really,
I mean, it's one of those classic things, isn't it? Like the swan elegantly floating on the top of the water and a lot of paddling about going on underneath. But that's what we're aiming to do. Is the very first slide, you know, we've got to make this stuff completely as easy to use as possible and non computer like as possible, and that's you can do that with a little bit of code.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, you know, as you said before, it was kind of key holders would get emails or would have access to certain things, and I think that helps in terms of, you know, it's not somebody with a physical key or the book is locked in a thing that only one person can access. It's the people who need it can access it, and if you were off sick one day from the shed, someone else can access it. And
correct, there's about 3 of us in Debenham who kind of understand how it works. So yeah, if I'm not available, there are others that can work it to various levels. It's like all computing things. There are lots of layers. You know, the top layer is really simple. Pretty much anybody in the shed can use it. And you get down a bit deeper, and it gets a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, brilliant. So we've just had another comment. So David Morris is also from Shed on the Isle. So nice to have you with us.
Well represented from Shed on the Isle.
And also Jeff said he would be interested in learning more about this.
Oh, Brundle. Oh, you're not far away.
Yeah, that's the boatyard shed, isn't it? You guys are on the boatyard.
Why don't you pop down, Jeff? We're not that far from you. We're open on Monday mornings and Friday afternoons. If you let me know when you're there, I'll make sure I'm there.
Yeah, and you can email Jeff or anybody if you are interested in kind of, if you think you're not going to be at Shedfest to meet Giles in person, but you would like to get involved, email info@debenhamshed.org.uk. And Jeff, if you want to pop down and visit, email this and speak to Jeff and arrange a time. So I'll just leave that there just for the minute. But anything else, Giles?
No, I think that's it. I think hopefully we'll see people at Shedfest.
Yeah, so as Giles said, it'll be a kind of a shortish session. It's about half an hour. I think it's on at 12:30. And tickets will be being released very soon, obviously free tickets. But yeah, if you're interested in either finding out more, coming and asking Giles a couple of questions, or listening to kind of the questions that Giles has posed in this, who's interested, who would like to get involved, who's got info to share, come down and say hello or come to the session. And Jeff said he will.
Oh,
so
good.
He will be, so that sounds good. There we go. Brilliant. So yeah, the final session that we've got is, what was the date of it? Giles, you did say it before.
25th time, isn't it?
I think it's on the 25th or 24th of June.
Yeah, Rachel's got me getting up at 9 o'clock in the morning. I remember that.
Sorry, yeah, it's an early one. I will post it again in the Facebook group. But yeah, join us if you can. The last one is about creating a web presence. So that'll be the final session.
Yeah, that'll be about, what sort of software will help build websites, private members sites, public sites, those sorts of things.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Giles, and thanks everybody for your comments. Good questions there as well about the fire stuff and benefits of signing people in and out. So yeah, really useful, and hope you've found it helpful and enjoyed it. So thank you everybody.
See you next time, hopefully. All right, Shedfest.
Yeah, see you next time. Yeah, see ya. And Shed on the Isle have said thank you. Interesting information and ideas. You're welcome. And thank you, Giles. I'm not the one with the information or ideas. Bye, everybody.
Cheers. Bye-bye.